We're out here in Spor Mountains. The DOGM is going to be doing some reclamations out here soon, so we're trying to document some of the history that is out here and make a case for keeping some of the history alive that's out here.
One of the biggest things that I run into in everything that I do is, wait, there's still mines out there? What do you mean there's mines out there? Like all over the place? And I think that's the way a lot of people feel. They don't realize that we have this history in our backyards.
This is the Bell Hill. It's a pretty historic site. A lot of people know about it. But basically, the BLM is going to pay some contractors to come in here, and they're going to take the cheapest bid they can get. And that contractor is going to come in here with a dozer or a backhoe, and they're going to eliminate as much as they can that shows that there's any mining here.
This mine was developed in the 1920s. It's still here today. And if we let people just come in and completely destroy it, what's going to be left for our kids to see and our grandkids? This is our history. Nobody's going to do a wood head frame ever again because of the risk of fire. They've completely gone away from a wooden head frame. So if you see a head frame today, it's going to be made of steel, and the wood is completely a thing of the past.
If somebody comes out to mine, they're going to blast a big pit, they're going to take out what they want, and they're going to fill it back in with rock and put grass over it, and you're never going to know it was here. Something like this is just never going to be seen again. Nobody's going to cut a tunnel like this. Nobody's going to timber it in. Nobody's going to carbide their names of Steve was here in 1952.
If you were going to look at an old Indian ruin and you were like, oh, I'm just going to destroy that because, you know, it's a public nuisance and it's a hazard, I mean, you would be thrown in jail. But you can come out here and you can destroy what little history we have left of our mines. Like, that's just not right.
And the Spor Mountains is one of those that I think it's an easy target because not a lot of people come out here. They're not gold mines. The DOGM's had so much pushback on, you know, closing historic sites that I think it's like, hey, we need to spend money. Nobody's looking out at these little fluorite mines, so let's just spend our money out here and close it.
When it comes to mine reclamation and things like that, because there's a budget for it, there's these discretionary funds, then that budget gets used every single year when I think that money could be going to something that's a lot more useful and valuable to the public than closing up our historic sites.
Everything that's out here is getting paid for with money that could be going to schools, or it could be going to, you know, maybe fixing roads.
It's a common thing to hear that a mine was abandoned because it was all worked out. That's actually not true in most cases. Usually they're abandoned for a lot of different reasons besides that.
First glimpse is like, oh my God, it's so dangerous. Look at all this stuff on the ground. But this is like from years of guys like you and me and random people coming in to get fluorite and breaking pieces off the wall. This piece has been used numerous times to climb up.
These back here are actually dynamite holes. So what they would do is they actually drill these holes in a pattern. They put the dynamite in, and then they take all that dynamite and run a fuse out. When they come back, or they light the fuse, when they come back in, that'll blast a pattern and all this rock will come down. And then they'll bring in a mucker, usually muck it into a car and then take it outside. So, and again, this is history that's lost if this mine gets closed. Like, you're not going to see this kind of stuff anymore.
How many people have died in this mine? Yeah, 0. 0? So Utah takes a little different approach to abandoned mines, whereas Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Arizona, all these other states, they look at their abandoned mines and they say, this mine is dangerous because it has water coming out. This mine is dangerous because it's a big open pit. This mine is dangerous because there's a school a mile from it and little kids are falling in it. They grade that on, okay, 1 to 10, here's how dangerous this is. Utah says every mine we have in the state is a 10. So we need a lot of money because all the mines are the most dangerous mines that we have out here. And it's just simply not a fact. It just is, it's a cheap, easy way to try and get money. And it says that you're really not going out and looking at anything and understanding the value of what's out there, because this portal versus a large open pit in the middle of the desert, there's different degrees of danger with that.
So not only are these mines valuable because of the history that they have and they can tell us, they're also valuable because what you see every day comes from mines. Your cell phone that you use, your iPhone watch, all the components and the electronics inside of those minerals have to be mined. So it's not just about the history, it's also that we rely on mining every single day, and a lot of people don't realize that. They go to the iPhone store and they're like, oh, I got this from the iPhone store.
Well, you never know, you know, when you talk about a mine like this of like fluorite, okay, there's no use for fluorite really right now except for gem quality stuff, but maybe 2 years from now, Javier, the technologist, discovers that we can recycle fuel with fluorite and beryllium, and suddenly there's a huge need for fluorite and beryllium, and it's like, hey, Utah could be a huge hub for this. Oh yeah, that's right, we closed all the mines down. I think the biggest piece for us personally is that this little bit of history is all that's left. Nobody else is making any more mines. Our kids, their kids, their kids' kids, they're not going to see this stuff anymore. So the little bit, you know, preserving the couple of mines, maybe a couple hundred mines across the state, to preserve that for, you know, here's what put us on the map is just hugely important. It's the only reason, you know, at this point that we're out here doing this, because this doesn't make money. This doesn't, you know, help do anything except for maybe bring some enlightenment to people that don't understand what's out here and why they should care that these sites are being eradicated. And to see a mine that, you know, wasn't just like, hey, I stopped by and I spray painted something. It is, I purposely dug a hole 300 feet into the mountain. I pulled out cool shiny rocks, and this was my life's work. And to cover that all up and say, you don't matter and what you did doesn't matter is really a crime. With this one, they're gonna put a grate back there. They'll probably damage a whole lot of stuff that's in the front here because that's just how it happens. And then that gate's gonna sit there until somebody comes with a cutting torch and cuts it open, because they're like, oh, look, there's a gate, there must be treasure in here. And then it will just continue to get vandalized and vandalized until a certain point, maybe 5 years from now, that there's nothing really historical left. And BLM will come in and say, hey, there's nothing left, let's just hit it with the dozer, and they'll just completely backfill over it. In an era of, you know, super environmental, you know, you're concerned about what's going on, what's gonna be left. The environmental impact of small mines is virtually nothing. And you look at these mines that have been out here for 50 years, even for 20 years or 100 years, and they're not really making any impact. The impact you see is these, you know, your massive Kennecott's, your barracks, these large operations. But the small stuff that these guys are doing out here isn't really hurting anybody, and the stuff has been out here for 100 years and not hurt anybody, so why would it start hurting somebody now?
One thing that's not safe about it is nobody's educated about mines anymore. Most people don't even think they're out here. So they see this hole and they're like, ooh, that looks fun. And they go in, they don't have the proper gear, they have no idea what they're doing. So I do see that it's appropriate to put like some fencing around it and some signs that say, hey, look, this is here, be careful. But that's definitely something that you could say, hey, yeah, this could be dangerous to the public. And again, it's usually because people are not paying attention to what they're doing. So a side project that we have been working on is we realized that if you're a big time miner, then there's MSHA, and they're gonna come through and they're gonna make sure that your mine is safe and that you're safe and that everything is being done according to law and code and all that kind of stuff. But what about the people who are coming out here to do mine on a smaller basis? You know, the people who don't have employees, who don't have the resources to really hire MSHA to come in and, you know, look through everything. So we're kind of doing a side project. It's called Mine Safety Training Authority, and that's the whole goal, is to teach people how to be safe in mines, how to safely mine, everything that you should know if you're going to be out here actually working in a mine.
Yeah, the basic knowledge that we got was from
Old miners.
That I got, yeah, was from old miners. How do you test if the rock is good? Hit it with the hammer. How do you do this? Just little things that all these old timers that are all dead nowadays would pass on to, you know, other miners as they were learning their trade. There's nobody to pass that on. So I mean, that's kind of the goal with MSTA, is to say, hey, let's keep this knowledge going. Let's keep these people out here. The DOGM said, and this was years ago, John Baza that headed up DOGM said, hey, it's time to erase the scar of mining from Utah's history. And to erase the scar of where you came from and call that a scar, to erase your heritage and call that a scar, is just pretty ignorant as a whole.
What I hope to get out of all of this is that this site does not get reclaimed, that it does not get destroyed, that our history is able to stay here where we can come see it and our grandkids can come see it. And I don't want to see this scar of mining erased. Scars tell stories.
If you want more information on what's going on out here, what you can do to help, visit our website. Yeah, hopefully we can keep some of these open for the next generation, maybe the next 2, maybe the next 5 generations. Yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah, for Gold Rush Expeditions, I'm Corey.
And I'm Jessica.
We'll see you at the next site.